Thank you for being here. Today we'll be talking about how to hire a real estate assistant locally, and more importantly, why to hire an assistant. For those real estate investors that don't really know how to hire somebody but know that they need to, this is going to be a good segment for you. I want to impress upon you that it's probably one of the first things the one-man show real estate investor should do. The very first move he should make when he gets tired of being a one-man show is to hire that personal assistant, because you won't believe how they can catapult you. In today's episode, we're going to learn what are the advantages of hiring locally, how to be specific about what you want, how much you can plan on paying a local assistant, and what skills you might require that assistant have so that it can be the most effective for you. So stay tuned. We're going to cover those topics right now. The biggest advantage of hiring an assistant locally is that they know the culture and they know your town. They're probably very familiar with all the surroundings and everything you're having to deal with in different neighborhoods that you're in. The other thing is proximity. They're close to you, you can get together with them, and why proximity is so important is because there is a synergy sometimes when two people work together. And that's really one of the main effects of a local assistant versus a virtual VA that's overseas or in another state, is getting a little bit more out of that synergy. Because of their proximity, you can meet, you can go to lunches and discuss business, or you can go meet at a house and talk about what needs to be done. There can be a lot more synergy. The real advantage of hiring any assistant is that you're trying to leverage time. There's only one of you, and there's more to do than you can do. By hiring an assistant, you can start to clone yourself. Now, they'll never be you exactly, but you can take the things that you do well and that's really high level, and you can reserve those things for yourself. And you take everything that's less than that and you start subbing it out to your local assistants. This can get 2, 3, 4 times the work done in a year than you would be able to get done by yourself. Because somehow having an assistant doesn't turn out to be 1 + 1 = 2. It's more like 1 + 1 can equal 4. You just get that much more work done when there's 2 people conquering one set of problems. The art of using a local assistant effectively has a lot to do with your mindset. You have to get into the mindset that you can't work below your pay grade. In order to figure this out, you kind of have to come to some kind of number that you make an hour. If that's $50 an hour or $80 an hour or $100 an hour, I don't know. At one point in my career, I was worth $800 an hour. So anything that wasn't worth $800 an hour, I was supposed to sub out. So if mowing the front lawn and the back lawn was a $50 an hour job, then I wasn't to do that job. And you have to start looking at your entire business like that. If it's not a certain caliber, don't work below your pay grade. Find people that are in that pay grade to do that work for you. Reserve yourself for the high dollar, high ticket items. You really want to be specific as to what you want your assistant to do. And that starts from the very beginning when you place your ad. You need to be very specific. Now, that's a little trickier than it might sound. Well, I was talking to some students the other day, and one student knew exactly what they wanted to do. He had this long list of stuff that he hated doing, that had to get done, that he wanted to do, and he wanted them to be able to do that, and he listed it right away. But this other student on the other side of the equation, it's like, I know I need one, but I don't know what I'm going to tell them to do. I don't really know what they would be doing. When you come to that conclusion, if you're one of those guys, then do this. Write down every hour what you've been doing for like 4 days. Write down every single hour what you've been doing. So set your alarm on your clock, or I don't know how you're going to remember, but every hour on the hour, stop what you're doing and just document, short form in bullets, what you've been doing in that last hour. And in 4 days, you'll pretty much be able to see that most of the stuff you're doing, you shouldn't be doing. If it does nothing else, it'll bring to light all the things you've been doing that your assistant should be doing. It's a really, really neat exercise. It's a pain in the butt, but if you'll suffer through it for 4 days, it's really eye-opening. I think everybody should do it at least once a year. I'd like to give a little example right here of how my partner decided on what his assistant was going to do for him. But before I get to that, I'd like you to take a little time here and help me out. If these episodes have been helpful, insightful, motivational, or inspirational, would you please hit those like buttons for me? Hit it a couple times, show us some love. And please hit the share button and share it with all your friends and family, just because no one really knows we're out here. We're in this big sea of YouTube channels, and we'd like to let people know that we're here and what we're doing. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and subscribe now, because there is a lot of great content coming up over this next year or so. So how did my partner go about figuring out what his assistant was going to do? It was real simple. He committed to hiring her for 3 months. At the end of the first month, he said, "I can't believe I deliberated so long onto whether to get an assistant or not. I'm paying this assistant $36,000 a year, Mitch. She's already going to make me $150,000 this year that I know is a direct result from her being there helping me." When I was asking, well, how did you know what to tell her to do? He said, "Man, I just hired her. We started out, the first days were kind of rough. I just had things coming on my phone. I started delegating them. Today, this is how it works for him. He calls her in the morning at 7:30. They go over the list of things that he had given her yesterday. How much did she get through? How much was still left to do? So they established what got done from yesterday's list and what's still remaining. And then he started adding to her list for today. And then he doesn't talk to her again till the next morning, where they again review how much of everything got done that he had put on her plate. And he discovered how to use her by just having her available. He didn't really know. He's not the most organized person, in this sense. He's highly organized in other ways, but in this sense, he's not that organized. He just got the assistant, and they developed together how she's going to work and what she's going to do. And it came together pretty fast. One of the things we started doing with all of our employees was testing them, a personality test from DISC, D-I-S-C, and it would help us fully understand what this potential employees or assistants' aptitudes were. If you're going to be handling conflict, or you're going to be doing collections where there's potential conflict, if you're doing negotiating, whatever it is that you want your employee or your assistant to do, wouldn't it be helpful if their personality test said that they excelled in that specific arena? So we started looking at these tests before we started hiring. You might not be surprised to hear that the test told us to hire people that we would have passed on, but we hired them because the test said they were the right person. This completely went against my partner and I's grain, but we were having such bad luck with our hires that we figured we couldn't do any worse. So we started listening to the test, and guess what? The people that we hired based on the test results are still with us and doing great jobs, and they fit right in, and they're doing exactly what we need to do. So I personally believe in those personality tests very highly. You can find them online, DISC, D-I-S-C. So how much can you expect to pay a personal assistant? It really depends on the caliber of person you want. I know this. If you go to pay minimum, you'll probably get minimum, and they may not even hang around, or that might be not even worth the money you're paying. I like to find someone who was going to excel, and I like to pay them well. I think that we're paying our personal assistants about $35,000 a year, and we work them from 8 to 5, 5 days a week. Usually turns out that we need them more like 12 or 13 hours a day, so we give them Friday off, so they work like 4 long days, and then they get a 3-day weekend. But it's usually around $15 to $20 an hour, and that's to get a top-level person, self-motivated, self-started, responsible, shows up on time, just got everything down the line. It's really comforting, and I don't know why we waited so long for Mike to get his assistant, but we are sure happy that he got his, because it just changed his whole world. And by the way, his temperament and his demeanor is so much more calm now, because he's not overloaded with a bunch of piddly stuff all the time. All right, we're at the end of this episode, and I would like to give you the first 100 pages of my book. It's from My Life in 1,000 Houses, Failing Forward to Financial Freedom. It's about 400 pages. And if you would like to know if this book would be of interest to you, I'm going to give you the first 100 pages free right now. Just go to 1000houses.com/free-stuff and scroll up and down that page right there until you see the link that reads first 100 pages free. And that'll get it digitally downloaded to you, and you will be reading my story within seconds. Have a great day. We'll see you at the next episode.